Okay, so my first question is, do you think that Minnie Wright was guilty of murder? If so, why?
So I do think that she was guilty of murder. I wouldn't do like the full charge. I think it was in terms of self-defense because there was evidence of past abuse from her neighbors that they witnessed it. And there was also the bird cage and the bird in the box, which show that someone could be violent. So it could have just ended badly. And yeah, I think that unfortunately she was guilty.
Yeah, I agree. I think like maybe she could have pleaded insanity or something like that to get a lesser
Hmm.
sentence.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
the next question is, do you think Mr. Wright inflicted any emotional or physical abuse towards Mrs. Wright?
Like I said, I from whatever the neighbor was saying, I'm pretty sure that they would become one of the witnesses in the trial and plead for Minnie Wright and say that he was emotional and physical abusive, which is why I think that the bird in the cage was there because he could have broken and gone angry since it was singing all the time, apparently. And I think if one thing triggers him, then it can lead to him also harming his wife.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's like definitely what happened. But
Mm-hmm.
okay, what social differences between the men and the women in this play, like what does it imply about their relationships? Like kind of like the gender roles in the play. I know that question's kind of weird.
No, I get it. It's like the part where I think it's the county attorney when he's like judging the kitchen and saying like, "Oh, I guess she wasn't much of a housekeeper."
Mhm.
I think that they mostly see women as just that. So I think having the women in power by making like by hiding that secret about the bird in the cage and everything, it shows that they actually do have power instead of how the men see them in the play. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
I think like even the name of the play too, like trifles, is like what the men see them as is just like kind of insignificant, and like what they think is important, they're like we're just gonna brush that off because it's like not important, but it actually is.
Yeah, like they didn't even incorporate them at all in like the questioning really. Like they kind of tossed them to the side. So,
Yeah,
but like luckily the play focused on them, so the men weren't even that important because they were in like the room half the time.
yeah. Okay, so why do you think Mrs. Hale feels so guilty about not visiting Minnie Wright prior to the murder?
I feel like this kind of happens a lot. Like everyone has that guilt feeling when something bad happens. She probably just thought that if she was there before and with her, that this wouldn't have happened. But honestly, like she couldn't be with them 24/7. So I think that even though she does feel guilty, she shouldn't. But it makes sense as to why she would feel guilty because she thought she can probably stop it.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think the women are justified in their choice to hide the evidence that they found, like the dead bird in the broken cage?
I think that they should have because as we talked about, like the men were already like they saw her guilty from the beginning.
Hmm.
They already didn't like see her as anything more but like the murder of the trial. So I think that if they would have told like the sheriff that of the evidence, then they would have held it against her for sure. And
Yeah.
that would have been the reason why she would actually be guilty of the charges. So I think they did a good job at that.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think there was a reason that we never saw Mrs. Wright, or like I know he's dead, but like prior to his death, Mr. Wright, like directly in the play?
I think it kind of leaves like a mystery behind everything because if you don't actually see them, then you get a different perspective on it. You see it from like the outside. So if you would actually see or hear about Mrs. Wright talking, then I feel like we wouldn't actually know if she was guilty or not. So I think if since they didn't show her, then we don't really know if she was guilty because we don't have like her personality or how she acts or anything. So I think that might be why.
I agree. Okay, that was the last question. So I think that concludes the interview. Thank you.